Yeah, so homework question 4.17 is a really tough question because it's a limiting reagent calculation, number one. So those are involved questions. And then number two, they want us to find out how much excess we have left over. So that involves an extra calculation on top of a regular limiting reagent calculation. So we'll do our limiting reagent calculation first. And then from there, we have to figure out, okay, based on limiting reagent, what's in excess, how much excess, and then how much mass we would have in excess as well because of that. So we'll do the limiting reagent step first. We'll do that for aluminum. We'll do that for the chlorine, right? So 0.407 moles of aluminum and 1.46 moles of chlorine. We want to convert them both into moles of the aluminum chloride so we can kind of see what's there in excess or not, right? So we know for every 2 moles of aluminum, I'm going to make 2 moles of aluminum chloride. So that one's not too bad. That's going to give us 0.407 moles of aluminum chloride. Do the same calculation for chlorine to see that 3 moles of chlorine on the way in give us 2 moles of aluminum chloride on the way out. So 1.46 times 2 over 3, right, gives us like 0.973 moles of aluminum chloride. And I dropped the chloride up here. So that should be aluminum chloride, not to confuse us that we suddenly made something brand new, not in the reaction. All right, so based on the aluminum, based on the chlorine, right, what limits our reaction? Yeah, the aluminum limits our reaction because based on the aluminum, I can only make 0.407 moles of aluminum chloride. I could make more based on the chlorine that's there. So this is the extra step now. So we identified, right, aluminum is our limiting reagent. All right, we want to use that to kind of say, all right, how much extra chlorine would we have? And so to do that, well, I could have made 0.973 moles. I didn't. I made 0.4073 moles of aluminum chloride. We want to subtract to see how many moles of excess, right, we would have had. And then we'll work backwards and convert this back into chlorine. So 0.973 minus 0.407, right? Okay, I could have made an extra 5.66 moles of aluminum chloride, but I didn't. How much chlorine gas, right, would we have needed to make that much? So we have to work backwards now and convert the aluminum chloride into chlorine so we can say how much extra chlorine would be there. So, okay, 5.66 moles of the aluminum chloride, right? That would have required, for every 2 moles of the aluminum chloride, that would have required 3 moles of chlorine. So we multiply by 3 over 2 on the way out to see that that would have been, right, about 0.8495 moles of chlorine that we had excess, right? That's what's left over. They want to know the mass, right? So the last step to say, okay, if I've got this many moles of chlorine left over, right? Well, I know for every 1 mole of chlorine, monatomic chlorine is 35.45. So diatomic chlorine is 70.9 grams per 1 mole. So we multiply by 70.9. And we're going to have an excess of about 60.2 grams of chlorine. I would say 3 significant figures because the molar amounts you gave me were 3 significant figures. And just be careful because those molar amounts are variables. So those molar amounts will be different for everyone, which means your excess chlorine will also be different for everyone. But that should be about 60.2 or 6.02 e to the 1 grams of chlorine.